Thank you very much for coming to my talk. I'm really impressed to see all the chairs being used. As a Swede, that is a little bit awkward, but I don't know if you feel the same. Yeah, I'm going to talk about this TV show we did in 2021 in Sweden called Hackad, or Hacked in English. It was pretty popular by regular people. And a lot of people, it seemed, became more aware of cybersecurity, which was one of the goals. So if I hope something with this presentation, I hope it would be cool if it could inspire something similar to be done in a country or an organization to increase cybersecurity awareness. Shortly, a few sentences about me. As a typical Swede, I started my career at IKEA IT operations, doing Windows PCs and servers. This was during the Y2K transition in 98, 99. Then I spent 5 years as a software developer at J-Way, and this is in Malmö. And in 2011, I transitioned into cybersecurity, and I kind of think I used my experience in operations and development to become good at cybersecurity. And since 2017, I've been running my own freelance consulting company, doing offensive cybersecurity. So I do penetration testing. I've been doing basically 100% penetration testing since 2011. So this TV series, we did it in 2021. There was 6 episodes. I'm going to talk about 3 of them today. The purpose was to show the audience how hacking can look like. Of course, a lot of hacking is a lot of like typing at a terminal. So we needed to make it also interesting TV-wise. That's why we used a lot of social engineering. But we wanted to show regular people what hacking looks like, what the impact can be. And it's worth noting that we had 3 recording days per episode. So that means 3 days of pen testing each target. And we had 1 calendar week per episode before we had to go on to the next episode. So of course we could spend all free time or all weekends doing prepping on our own time, but we had 3 recording days when we did the hacking per episode. And everyone we hacked, of course, consented to this. Maybe not everyone read the fine print. I'm not sure. That's not up to me. But they did. Somewhere they signed a paper. If you want to see this TV show later on, you can find it at the first link there. It's streamable worldwide. And if you want to see it with English subtitles, they have to be used. They have to be added like extra. They are not included in the streaming service from SVT. SVT, by the way, is the Swedish public TV company, just like NRK here, BBC in England. So it's publicly funded. The last link there is Ginny, one of the hackers. She made English subtitles herself, and if you go to that page, you can find instructions on how to stream it with the English subtitles added on. And this TV series would not be what it is if it wasn't for my fellow hackers, Ginny, David, and Jesper. They are lifelong hackers. They have loads of energy, incredible people to work with, so big shout out to them. Okay, the first episode I'm going to talk about, we subtitled "I've Got Nothing to Hide," because that's one of the private people we hacked. She said that. And I think you've probably heard this when you talk to relatives and friends. What do I have to hide? So the first episode was targeting private people. Each episode had a specific target or a specific theme. So SVT there on the top, that's the TV company. They decided they're going to pick out 20 people, regular people, to be part of this episode. So they went out on Facebook, where they, I think, often get participants to TV shows. So they wrote there of a digital experiment. They didn't say you're going to get hacked. They call it a digital experiment because you want them to consent, but you also don't want them to know everything that's going to happen. So it was probably slightly vague. But they picked out 20 people that they thought would be interesting for TV. We didn't have we weren't involved that much in that phase, picking out these 20 people. But they were told to show up for a casting situation at an office that SVT had prepared. And then we prepared it for hacking purposes. So we prepared it with Wi-Fi attacks, we had phishing attacks, social engineering attacks, we had malicious USB sticks, and of course we searched leaked databases for passwords belonging to these users. I'm going to talk about some of these hacks here. Which attack do you think was the most successful of these?
Social engineering.
Yeah. And social engineering and phishing, I would say. So this is a lot of these screens you will see here on the slides are like screenshots from the TV series. So this is from one of the mounted cameras in the ceiling. These 20 people came in groups of 5 because this was during COVID time. I think that was one of the reasons. They signed a piece of paper and they were told to start the digital experiment on their own computer. They were instructed to bring their own laptop. It would be awkward if they brought their work laptop. That could be, I guess, some legal gray zone or maybe even black zone, I don't know. So they came in groups of 5. So they're going to start their digital experiment and they're going to be on TV doing some casting situation. And what they didn't know was the 5th person in each group was one of the hackers, Jesper. That's where the social engineering part comes in, and the malicious USB, as you will see. So the pretext for the attacks was that there was a form that they need to fill out to start this experiment. And to fill out the form, they need to connect to Wi-Fi and sign in to a portal that we had made, that SVT allegedly had made for this TV show. And of course, when you sign in, you need to create an account. And of course, you can be smart and use your Facebook or Google or LinkedIn single sign-on account. Do you think these links took them to Google's sign-in? No, obviously it's obvious here. It took the user to our version. So whatever mechanism they used, we collected their passwords. And then when they came, when they were logged in, they were prompted with an error message. So here is Frida, one of the participants. She's telling the other people in the room, I got some error message. And this is where we had the next layer of attack. So Jesper, the mole, he slides in here from the side, telling them, I got the same problem SVT gave me this USB stick. So he had various USB sticks in his pockets to match Mac and PC, etc. So the form can be found on the USB stick. And that's where the malicious USB comes in and the social engineering. So we attempted to collect passwords. We looked for leaked passwords online. We tried to execute backdoors on their PCs or Mac. How many accounts do you think we got passwords for? All of them. Sometimes several. Backdoors, we got 7. We got 7 backdoors for the Macs, the people who brought Macs. We got none for the Windows. I made the Windows backdoor. I spent all night making the Windows backdoor, and it worked on my machine, but it didn't work that well in production, so to speak. But what we learned during this TV series was failure is good TV, because you need drama, you need up and down. Yeah. Of course, our intention as hackers, we wanted to hack everything and do perfect. But failure is also good for TV, at least. So when we had these 20 people here, when that day was over, because that was one day of filming and hacking, we looked at what we had on each of these individuals. And the next day of filming would be 2 individuals picked out from these 20. And the SVT really wanted us to be able to localize find someone's location in real time. We thought we would never succeed with that. We were like, then we probably need to hack their Runkeeper account or something and see where they are running. And because SVT thought it would be really cool to show up with a film camera intercepting one of these people in real time, because we knew their location. So one person we picked out was Frida. We had a backdoor on her Mac. We had her password. We started reading her email. Funny, she was kind of chatting to a guy during this casting situation. So we saw her Google history, that she Googled his name. We had her LinkedIn account. We saw that she looked him up there. And then in her Google account, we enabled location tracking, so we could see where she were. And we were based in Malmö, and we could see that she was in Gothenburg. So that's a 3-hour train ride. And now we were getting close to one of the goals SVT had, that we could actually track someone's whereabouts. But then we were like, she was in Gothenburg like a couple of hours ago. And then when we looked at her email, we could see train tickets that said she would be arriving from Gothenburg in Malmö in like 20 minutes. And we were just like, this is perfect. We asked the TV crew if they could join, and they could, and we got into the car, drove to the train station, and we were so lucky we just ran down to the platform. I think we waited on the platform 5 minutes before she came out of the train. She had flowers because she had attended some event. I think she was speaking somewhere and got flowers. So this is Jesper, who acted as a mole, one of the hackers, intercepting her on the platform. And apparently it's illegal to film on the train platform, so we had to like quickly film and get out of there. So we took up to the street and told her what we had done, and she was obviously shocked and happy. And she was perfect for TV. But then we told her, and we hacked your laptop, we said. And she was like, So this phase is when Frida realizes we hacked her friend's laptop. Because Frida didn't have a laptop, so she brought her friend's laptop. Which explained why while we were looking at the backdoors we had a connection to, we had an Emma, user profile Emma, and we had no Emma in the room. So it turns out Emma is Frida's friend. The second guy we picked out, we had a slightly different angle on. We didn't have his physical location. We didn't have a backdoor. We had the password for his primary email address. But when we tried to log on with that, we got a 2-factor prompt. So then we were like, now he's getting a push notification maybe, or a text message or something like that. But then searching online, leaked password databases, we could find, and this is not like when you go to the web and see if your email is leaked. This is us downloading terabytes of leaked databases that we store locally. So searching for his name, we could see that we found a secondary or an older email address, a live.se address, which we could log in with. So the leaked password took us to his live email address. And it turned out that he had, and this is what we showed him when he came into the office, and we filmed like the debrief with him. So we could see that he was using his old email account for Facebook, Instagram, Snapchat, etc. So we could do a password reset on all of these accounts and own them. So when you unwrapped the access we had, it looked something like this. Because he was using Live for Facebook, and because he was using Facebook for single sign-on to a bunch of applications, as you can see on the top right, we owned all of these applications as well, or his account on these applications. He was also using Microsoft 365 to manage his family with money to the kids, screen time, and stuff like that, which we also controlled at this point. He felt pretty owned, so to speak, at this point. And that was episode 1. And then leveling that up a bit, next episode I'm going to talk about is when we hacked 2 celebrities. So celebrities are kind of like, these 2 at least, they are individuals, but they're also corporate people because they work as freelancers for companies. So they have their private stuff, they have their corporate stuff, and it's kind of intermixed. So the person on the left is Christopher Appelqvist. He's a comedian and TV show host of a big satirical news show called Svenska Nyheter. the girl on the right, Therese Lindgren, is one of our most famous influencers in Sweden. I had no idea who she was, but she has, yeah. My daughter informed me that she's very famous, so I guess I have to trust that. So we're gonna hack these two, and SVT was like, you're gonna have 4 days including travel in Stockholm. So that's when you're gonna hack these two. And we started with Therese Lindgren. With both of these, we tried to find leaked passwords online. We found some, but they didn't work for anything. We started with Therese Lindgren. And of course, the goal here was, what do you think the goal was? Any idea? What would be the optimal... Sorry? Yeah, exactly. We envisioned ourselves 4 hackers like being dancing or something on YouTube for 1 million kids. New audience, but that was our goal. So SVT had an idea that they were doing like the pre-interview or interview like before with each of these, like how do you work with your computer, what would happen if you were hacked, stuff like that. So they had an idea that after they did this interview at a cafe, I would bump into her on the street to take a selfie with her, not completely unrelated to her. Because good TV. That was a reason we heard sometimes. Because good TV. So this is the selfie. I bumped into her on the street and I said, are you Therese? My daughter is a big fan. Can I take a selfie? And I took this. So then we thought, because we're going to have to do a bunch of attacks against her, we thought maybe she's probably of the generation and also being an influencer, she probably gets a bunch of emails that she doesn't read. So if we're going to do a phishing attack, how are we going to succeed with that? So we had I think, pretty good idea. We thought we'll do a phishing attack that would connect to this real life event. So Ginny, during this episode, she was sitting at home working. She created an kind of slightly offensive comment, I think, on one of Therese's YouTube videos. Then she created a Gmail account posing as my daughter, and then emailed Therese saying something like, thank you for the selfie that my dad took. Maybe she attached the photo and said, have you seen this bad comment or something? So our idea was that she would see that, connect that to reality, think that was a real link to click, and when she clicked the link, she was prompted with a YouTube login. That was our idea. That failed. She clicked the link, but she didn't sign in. When we did this selfie, we saw that she parked where she couldn't park. You can't see the sign there, but the sign is, you can't park here. So we took a picture of her car just because of, why not? And then later we realized that, we can use this maybe for a phishing campaign. So really quickly on one of the evenings, we put together a parkingstockholm.se phishing site, texted her a message, something like, you have a parking ticket to pay, here's a picture of a car, click the link, log in with your Facebook account, because some reason. We hope that you would be like, you use different techniques when you do social engineering, so we thought maybe because you're like stressed or I don't want this to happen, I don't want to have problems, I want to solve this now kind of thing. She didn't. She clicked the link, didn't log in. Also, mostly for reasons of good TV, we tried to hack her Wi-Fi. So this is, we went to her apartment, found her apartment, sat outside the door. This is me with spy glasses on, filming, because we didn't have a film crew there. This is David holding our stronger antenna. But she didn't have a Wi-Fi that we could connect to her name. There were too many SSIDs in there, so that failed. And while we were there at her door, we put an envelope in her mailbox with a printed paper saying, you have been nominated for an award of Best Influence of the Year, something like that. Please see more information on this USB stick. And it was like award.pdf.app or something like that, the Mac backdoor. The Mac backdoor that we used from episode 1. That failed as well. Everything failed. One thing we didn't try, however, that someone else tried, I think last year, was to smash the window of our car, grab the laptop and just open it. It turns out, she said in Aftonbladet here, I didn't have a password for my computer. Really unfortunate, and I hope she recovers. But it goes to show you now how hard it can be and how easy it can be depending on a lot of things. Okay, so also very good TV was that experienced hackers cannot hack young girl. Really good. Hopefully experienced hackers can hack old white man. Turns out that's the case. So then we had one day left in Stockholm after we made all these efforts on Therese. And Christopher here, the comedian, he's hosting this satirical news program, and on this screen here, he's making fun of the CEO of Gunnebo, which is a large security firm, like physical security. They were hacked, and he said on national television news that they hacked us despite us having double passwords. So Christopher made fun of him for saying that, and it is pretty fun, I guess. So we thought we're gonna hack him and make fun of him. That would be even more fun, recursively fun. So we spent all the time we had on Therese, and basically SVT told us that tomorrow morning we're going to interview Christopher at 9, and 19:30 in the evening, the same day, we're going to go back to him and tell him how we hacked him. Okay. So we started, as I said before, we started looking for leaked passwords in databases we have downloaded. And we could see 2 passwords for Christopher. Catamaran and another one, Hata SJ. And SJ is a Swedish train company, so hate SJ. Which was pretty fun, but they didn't work. The passwords didn't work for any of his accounts. And as I said, the calendar, this is my calendar. I actually named the meeting we had, because we had a Teams meeting with Christopher in the evening. I named the meeting Hata SJ. But this is for real what our timeline looked like. So we said, for this to be any chance of success at all, Jesper has to be a mole, like he was in episode 1. So we took the same Mac backdoor. We had done some reconnaissance, so we knew that he was using a Mac, Christopher. Took the same backdoor as we used in episode 1. Jesper dressed up as, or pretended to be a sound technician, and came in with SVT in the morning for the 9 o'clock meeting, where they, as you can see to the right there, they're interviewing Christopher, and while they're doing that, Jesper plugged in the backdoor in his MacBook because it was open. If it had been closed, that would be a big fail as well. But it was open and logged in, so he plugged it in, installed it, and outside in the parking, me and David was sitting, and we were SSHing into the command and control server, and then we see the connection to the Mac backdoor and Mac connect. And we are, of course, very excited because now we have to download the most interesting stuff we can, because it might be 15 minutes before he shut down the lid of his computer and go somewhere else. What would you download if you had like 15 minutes of user-level access to a laptop? Search history? Yeah. Sorry?
The downloads file, maybe?
Yeah. Yeah, we downloaded a bunch of files, but it turned out that we realized afterwards when we looked at all the files, we have his user profile, and in the user profile you find a lot of interesting files like stored passwords for web browsers. So if you save passwords in any of the web browsers, you would have them stored in some database, and he was using Chrome to store his passwords, and that's a SQLite database file .db. That is very small, but it contains all the stuff you need, but it's encrypted. What you can see there unencrypted is you can see the website, you can see the username, but you can't see the password because the password is encrypted. Where is the encryption key, you know? Huh? In the cloud? No. The encryption key on a Mac is in the keychain, which is also a file locally stored on the Mac, which you can also download. But the keychain is encrypted, right? The keychain is encrypted with the password that you use to log into your MacBook. So now we have two database files offline. We have the keychain database protected with this password, and then we have the Chrome database, saved passwords database. And also there you have all the cookies, so you can also, if you can decrypt them, you can decrypt cookies and steal already authenticated sessions. So now we have one big challenge, and that is to decrypt or to try passwords for the local keychain so that we can decrypt it. And the password cracking is something we do often. We have everyone has their own process for that. My process looks like this. I have word lists. I have RockU I have public word lists like RockU. It's a famous 14 million password list from a leak database. So the best input to a cracking process is all of your passwords. So if you have 14 million people entering their password into a plain text database, and then you take that, that's a pretty good sample to put into your cracking process. And then I have private word lists. And then I apply rules to them. So for every word in the word list, you apply permutations. So if summer is in the word list, then I will crack summer 999 exclamation mark, an @ sign, an underscore, and etc. You get it. And there are a bunch of these rules. And then lastly, in my password cracking process, I use brute force patterns. So the yellow U here is uppercase, the green is lowercase, and D is digit. So these patterns go through all permutations of these, much quicker than doing every character at every position. But how far in this process you get is, of course, dependent on what kind of hash you're trying to crack. And we were trying to crack Apple Keychain, as you can see here in the middle. That's roughly 2 million passwords, or 2 million hashes per second that I can guess with my graphics card that you can see here on the picture. Compare that to NTLM, which you have in Active Directory, for instance, where you have 50 billion. So depending on what kind of hash you want to crack, you have different speeds. But this is what we're doing. We're sitting in the hotel room in Stockholm. We're doing this on our laptops. Ginny, one of the hackers, she's sitting at home using her GPU, and we are using all the words we have, all the processing power we have, and time progresses, and we can't crack the password. And while we were doing this, I was sitting there thinking, like, is there anything clever I can come up with that can aid this process? How can he have picked, what kind of password can he have picked? And I realized, years and social security numbers, personal numbers, as we say in Sweden. Yeah, we don't have that in the list, I thought. So, okay, I'll call the tax authority, Skatteverket in Sweden. And I said, on this address, Google his name, found his address, and I said, on this address, how many people live there? And they said something like, 2 kids and 2 adults. Can I have their social security number? And she said, yeah, only the first 6. And I was like, no, everything. And it's public, so it's probably public in Norway as well, or? Yeah. No? It's not public? No. It's like Denmark, maybe that, semi-secret, and then you don't know is it secret or is it not. I mean, it can't be secret because it's on your employment contract, right? So it's semi-secret then. But in Sweden, it's public. You can ask for it. And we know that people like to put years of kids' birth and stuff like that to passwords. So what I did, I got all these numbers and I added it to the word list and I added it after the words that we added before and cracked the password pretty quickly. It was hot S, the uppercase H, birth year of one of his kids, an exclamation mark. So this opened the keychain, which opened the Chrome database with 200 passwords. And it was like Instagram, Facebook, SVT FTP server, I think, was there. Like pre-production video material, stuff like that. So armed with this, Jesper went back for a physical meeting, 19:30 in the evening. Me and David and Ginny, we were remote on Teams. The first thing Jesper said was, have you checked your Instagram lately? And he was like, no, fuck no, you haven't done anything. And yes, we had. So I did this on my phone. I logged into my phone with his account, took a picture of us in the hotel room, Ginny back home, and I wrote basically in English, we hacked you today, thanks for participating. in the future we will recommend double passwords or even triple passwords. So then we thought we made fun of him making fun of Gunnebo. And then while he was on the Teams meeting with us, we remotely popped up the 200 passwords in plain text on his computer using the backdoor. So while he wasn't touching the screen or the computer, and 200 passwords popped up. And he said something like, this is tough because these are not only my passwords. He probably stored shared passwords here as well. Not sure if those people signed the consent. I don't know. So that was the end of that episode. And I think it's also interesting to see how the private angle, the corporate parts, they are intertwined here because it's his personal freelance laptop, but it also contains secrets for corporations that he works with. Maybe it could be VPN credentials that would allow you access into an internal network, for instance. So that segues kind of into the last episode I'm going to talk about, which we subtitled, Can You Hack a City? Because in this episode, we targeted Helsingborgshem. They are one of these, communal housing companies owned by the city. Helsingborg is Sweden's 4th largest city, so they own 12,000 apartments. And they rent these apartments. So to get one of these apartments, you need to be on a queue, and in this queue, you collect points. The longer you are in the queue, the more points you collect. The more points you have, the higher up on the queue you are. So manipulating the queue is one interesting thing. That was one of the targets, the housing queue. Another target, and this we decided this together with Helsingborgshem. Another target was the database of all the residents, because they have some people that are more sensitive than others, like politically exposed people and protected housing for women that have been abused and stuff like that. So these are two sensitive targets that we, together with Helsingborgshem, decided to target. We also decided we're going to mix social engineering with network hacking. And this is the CIO at Helsingborgshem at the time. He was asked in the interview before we started and he was told he think the social engineering is going to succeed, but he don't think the network attack is going to succeed, which I think is interesting to consider. Okay, so our plan here was to get it on the internal network. Most real attacks would be some kind of phishing attack remotely done from anywhere on the internet. But a more effective way, I think, and also more TV friendly, is to place a Raspberry Pi on the local network using some kind of social engineering means. So that was our plan. We have these prepared. So when you connect them to the network, they will SSH out and VPN out, and then basically create a reverse VPN back in. So basically lets us VPN back in after we connect this to the network. And because they are this big, you can connect them and hide them. Maybe tape them under a table or something like that. So the plan was, well, first we did some reconnaissance. It turns out they had a new office with these doors that shut pretty tightly. So tailgating, as you probably know, like following someone in closely after, was not an option here. And this was also during COVID times. There were very few people coming and going in the office. So we decided we had to use another technique that I've used before. And that's basically just being invited somehow. It could be that you apply for a job, you sit through the job interview, you leave it to go to the toilet, and then you connect this Raspberry Pi. Or, as we decided in this case, we tell the reception that there's a consultant coming, and then hopefully the reception will let the consultant in. So we created we bought a very similar domain to Helsingborgshem. So the third letter here is an I in the domain I bought. So depending, you might think that, well, that's going to look like an I when you receive the email, and perhaps that depends on your email client, but it's also very tricky to see the difference. So we bought that domain, created an email account for the CIO, used the same font, the same signature, and then we emailed the reception, and we told the reception that there's a consultant coming, and he's going to do some kind of, I think what you can't see here is that we added something, he's going to help me with a sensitive investigation or something like that. creating a sense of urgency and a sense of secrecy as well. So we sent this to the receptionist, and David, he dressed as he always does, dressed very nicely, very consultancy-like, and he had his shoulder bag with a hidden camera in it, and he walked up to the reception. And this is what it looked like from the camera in the bag, the hidden camera. And this is the receptionist there. She didn't want to be on TV, that's why the face is blurred. So we were like, this is gonna work straight out. We were completely confident that this is gonna work. He did. We can see on TV that he's doing a really good job talking to her, and yeah, I've talked to Richard and blah, blah, blah. I need a conference room, and he's gonna come later, he's gonna be here very soon. But the receptionist kept insisting that she needs to call Richard to confirm this. And this is, we learned later that this is not part of their procedure, so that's what she did on her own, so to speak. And we had anticipated this. So what you can do then is, of course, you can keep the line busy. And the longer it's busy, for Richard, the more difficult it will be for the receptionist to fight back, so to speak. And eventually, she might fold. But eventually, Richard hung up, she got hold of him, and we were busted. So access denied, owned by the receptionist. Good drama, good TV, not for good for hackers. So we were pretty bummed out. We went to Väla, big shopping mall in Helsingborg, had lunch, and we had no clue what to do. And actually the camera guy said, but they have an old office. We've been here like a month ago and they had an old office. Oh, okay, let's go there. So this is me and David. We went to the old office, looked through the windows, tried to see if there are people there, if some door is open, which it wasn't. We could see that they had moved. There were like cables on the floor, but there were some clothes there, but no people. And the door, the main door was locked. So we sat in the car. This was in March. Sat in the car and I thought, yeah, let's look at the Wi-Fi, see if we can hack the Wi-Fi. If we're lucky, we connect to guest Wi-Fi and you get like an internal IP address that is actually on the LAN. That would be awesome. And while we're sitting there, we see, I don't know how well you can see here, but there's a person going into another door that we hadn't spotted. So we thought, that might be the right door. So I put on the shoulder bag with the hidden camera. Went up to the door, stood next to it, talked to someone on the phone, and then eventually someone comes and opens the door. And now tailgating works. You can barely see it there, but the door opened and closed very slowly. And I grabbed it before it closed, and the person was long gone. I walked inside. Of course, now you're really nervous, and you're not prepared for whatever questions they might have. I could hear some like muffled voices, but I couldn't see any people. So I walked around, tried to find a place to connect my Raspberry Pi. I connected it, and when you connect it, as you probably know, you want to see the blinking lights because that means you have traffic going to the switch. Because we don't want to connect this and run out and then discover later that it's not connected to, that it doesn't connect fully to the internet. And this is actually the only fake scene in the TV show. This is filmed under my desk at home. Because when I connected this for real, the camera was pointing somewhere else, so we didn't get this on video. And the blinking lights were good TV as well, so we needed to fake that. So what do you do when you have connected your Raspberry Pi and you want to verify that it's connecting out to internet? Where's your safe space in breaking into an office? Toilet. And instead of just having the picture of me in the toilet, I included this news because the day the TV show aired, this was the first news I got on my phone on the morning, the Tuesday it aired. I looked on the phone and the top news was this, me in the toilet. But I went into the toilet and I called my friends on the outside, can you check if you have connection with the Raspberry Pi? And then the door, I forgot to lock the door, and then I heard people exiting a meeting room, standing just outside the toilet, talking to each other. And I was standing there, AirPods, fully dressed, luckily, but hadn't locked the door, and I thought, if I lock it now, that doesn't make sense to lock it that late. Can they hear the lock? Will that draw attention? If I don't lock it, I might open the door. But eventually I got hold of Jesper, who was driving from Gothenburg down to Malmö. He SSH'd into the command and control server, verified that we had connection with a Raspberry Pi from the outside. And he writes, boom, and the time is 15:39. And I open the door and go out, and no one notices anything. And we're home. Phase 1 completed. We have local network access. We drive back down to Malmö, have some hamburgers, Foodora COVID time burgers, and start hacking away on this internal network. So this is just to symbolize that this is a network full of stuff. We have no clue what is what, and we start hacking away. And because I like Windows, I start doing the Windows type of hacking and the Windows attacks. And one attack that always yields results is you run a tool on a local network to trick Windows machines to authenticate to you. So basically, Windows machines often scream out name resolution requests that they fail to resolve it in the DNS, and then they shout it out and say, where is server 1? Where is server 2? And then this script will just say, that's me, that's me, that's me. And then the victim machines will try to authenticate over file share SMB to me, and then I can collect these hashes for NTLM challenge response. These are hashes that you can't reuse, but you can put them into the same password cracking process as I said before. And you get a few of those. Every network you will get like 5-10 of these. These are typically regular users that are logged onto a PC on the same network. Cracked one of them pretty quickly. When you have one password, then you can do more things on the network. You can query the Active Directory, for instance, which I did. When you can query the Active Directory, there are a bunch of interesting stuff to look at. Among other things are service accounts that are Kerberos enabled. If you find service accounts that support Kerberos, you can get a Kerberos service ticket, which is a good thing to have like for offline cracking. The Kerberos ticket for a service account will be protected by the password for the service account. So if you have a service account with a weak password, it can be cracked offline. No one will notice anything. And what are service accounts often? Are they often highly or lowly? Are they often low privileged or high privileged? High, yes. Because, this service doesn't work, domain admin. So I cracked the password after maybe 30 minutes, and I said, now I'm going to try this password to the domain controller using this tool, this command line tool, and if it says yellow, owned, then the domain controller is owned, which means we're domain admins, which we were. So weak password for a SQL Server service account, too highly privileged, domain admin, gave us access to the entire network. The time at this point was 1840. So it's 3 hours before we connected the Raspberry Pi till we drove down to Malmö and cracked the domain admin password. That's pretty good, if I can say it myself. Then, of course, you sync down all the password hashes from the AD, Active Directory, and these are hashes you can use. These are not hashes you need to crack. You can reuse them. At this point, you own everything that is Microsoft in the network. At this point, also, the challenge for us was to find the databases that we wanted to target and find the system, find how they worked, where are the points located, where are the residents located. And because of good TV, we downloaded all the hashes, we cracked as many as possible. Often it's 80% I can crack with my process, so maybe the GPU running 2-3 days. We cracked them, we printed them on paper, because good TV, and in the final parts of the episode, we gave it to the final minutes of the episode, we gave it to the CIO printed on a piece of paper. And the last section of the last page was domain admins and then a few accounts. That was those 3 episodes. What's the common thread among all these?
Weak passwords.
Passwords. Not only weak, but reused passwords, shared passwords, stolen passwords. Passwords are a huge problem. Have been so for a long time. I have some pet peeves I'm going to show you here. What I think people or big companies can do better, and then some takeaways, then we're done. But if you want to change your password with Google, and you use the Sweden, probably Norway, but you have O, right? Somma 2023 will be the most common password in Sweden this year. For sure. No, maybe an exclamation mark will be more common depending on. Google think that's a strong password. If you change it to an English word, they think it's a good password. I mean, you can't. I mean, really, the most common password can't be a strong password. That's not acceptable. LinkedIn will accept summer 23. Active Directory, now if you install Active Directory to protect your organization, the default policy will say that 8 characters, 1 digit, 1 exclamation mark, 1 uppercase is good enough to protect your entire organization. Microsoft online, Microsoft 365 will not allow Swedish characters. Why? I mean, that's completely nuts because localized characters will be harder to crack. Not impossible, but they will be more difficult for those trying to crack it. And this, we're telling the users that you shouldn't you shouldn't give away your passwords. You should be sure, if you enter your password into a website, you should be sure it's the right one, because otherwise you can be phished. That's what we're telling the users, right? Look at the links you're getting in emails. Hover over them and make sure it says onenote.com if you want to log into onenote.com. But if you want to log into sharepoint.com, the URL says login.live.com. You can try this yourself. Go to the different Microsoft applications in the cloud and click login, and you will have completely different URLs. And if you go to office.com and you want to log in, it will say login.microsoftonline.com. Does this make sense? And is this reasonable? Is it reasonable that we tell the users that it's their fault that they have entered their secret password into a phishing site when it looks like this? I don't think so. So some final takeaways here. We need to stop blaming the users. We need to take some responsibility as a security industry, but also as a IT and developer industry. We need to start building strong authentication, or we need to use the existing strong authentication that is out there. And most of you have probably heard of the new passwordless authentication, but it bears repeating. Apple Passkeys is completely passwordless. You can start using it with your applications today. Windows Hello, this is based on WebAuthn. So this is private public keys that is used instead of passwords. Windows Hello, if you're using Windows, where the private keys are protected by the device. You're never sending the private keys or a password to the server. And this is the Swedish mobile bank ID, out-of-band authentication for banks. You probably have similar things in Norway. And we need to be better at using MFA, enforcing it or encouraging it. And as you probably know, MFA can be SMS codes. It can be these authenticator apps. But you should know that MFA is not perfect. It's not the final solution to authentication problems. SMS codes, for instance, will be displayed on the phone in a locked state, which means you only have to be able to view a phone to see their SMS codes. Using SMS as a multi-factor authentication also implies trust in the mobile phone provider. Think about that. If you're using SMS codes for authentication, you trust the mobile phone operator to not issue SIM cards to an attacker. So you're outsourcing your security to the telco. That's why these authenticator apps are better. MFA codes from either source can be phished, and they can be given away over a phone using social engineering, and the attackers will only up their game. So it's not unreasonable that attackers, maybe using AI, will call you up and ask for the codes for some good reason. And also there are MFA fatigue attacks, where you use these authenticator apps and you get push notifications, and where victims are like eventually they're bored, or not bored, but they are annoyed by getting all the push notifications, so they approve the sign-in. They might be thinking maybe this is some kind of a Outlook thing that Outlook is trying to authenticate to something. Yeah, it's probably me. Approve. It's called MFA fatigue attacks. And we're rid of passwords anytime soon, even if we use these other methods. So some takeaways with passwords. This policy of 8 characters complex, 1 upper, 1 special character, 1 digit. I see this in a lot of applications. Active Directory has it. This really, it sucks because, I mean, the most common password this year will be summer 2023 exclamation mark or with or without exclamation mark, and both of them qualifies for this policy. It should rather be something like this. You that build applications should encourage users that use phrases or sentences. And there are libraries you can use to calculate password entropy that will take this into account. That will consider the green one much stronger than the red one. So, and there are many websites where I generate passwords like the green one, and it says it doesn't live up to the standard of a strong password, which is ridiculous. And you can also use these libraries to ban common words. So ideally, if you have an account with IKEA, no one should have IKEA in the password. If you, let's say you crack all the IKEA users' passwords, there should be IKEA in none of them. And you can do this in your applications using libraries like Dropbox's library here. There are other ones like it where you also include a ban word list. And there you add your company name, products, product names, etc. And also common passwords like summer, etc. That way maybe we can get rid of most of these passwords that look something like this, that are qualifying as a complex strong password but are actually really, really weak. And then we can get passwords like this, either a random password, a random phrase or random words with or without separators, or lastly, if you really want to create the password yourself, a sentence that you like, that are not connected to the service that you're using. That's the takeaways I want you to take with you from this presentation. Thank you very much. We have some time for questions if you want, or you can, yeah?
Yeah. I really like the way the process goes for try to find a weakness. It seems to me like every weak, all of us have a weakness or central points. But if you think then towards a cyber war, or someone who really wants to harm a country or not just a city, they may find just the weak point of a person and then start escalating. How foreseeable do you see this to happen if right now the situation, how it is?
For what?
For this to happen, to become real.
For,
If some people who wants to threaten a city or a
city, yeah.
wants to target specific targets,
Yeah.
to fatigue, up till fatigue, and then just get into sensitive or sensible systems.
Yeah, I'm not sure exactly what the question is, but the finding weaknesses will always be what the attacker will do. So there's a good thing to keep in mind, and that's defender's dilemma. Defender's dilemma is that you have, as a defender, and that's any IT organization or you as a private person with your own accounts, you have to defend against every attack. The attack only has to find one, right? So it's, if you look at your house, if one window is broken or one door is left open, that's the one they will use. So you as a defender, you have to walk around your house, check all the doors, all the windows, etc. Try to see if you can climb on the roof, get into those windows. You have to see your IT environment the same way, closing all the doors. But it's a huge job, of course, and that's why pen testing is important, because my job is finding those holes, giving you the information you need to like close them. Does that answer a little bit your question?
Yes.
Yeah.
What is your view on password managers?
Password managers, yeah, they're good, because the two passwords that I showed in the beginning, they're long random one and the random words. You can probably not remember them, so you need a password manager for those. And everyone, or a lot of people ask, like, which ones are good? But I think Bitwarden is good. LastPass is good, even though they had some problems. Yeah, they had incidents, but it's good enough for, I think, for private use. Dashlane, 1Password, KeePass, but KeePass is not cloud synced, so that's if you want to keep the database locally. Anyone else? Yeah, thank you very much. Yeah, one. Yeah.
that are connected to device, are they in danger if you, like you mentioned, like the USB stick that breaks the Mac, for example? Like, will they be able to get the passwordless password then?
No, the question is if a malicious USB stick will get to the secrets if you're using passwordless. I guess depends on the technology you use, but let's say you use, as I understand it, Apple passkeys, then the keys will be stored in the secure enclave of the iPhone, so you can't extract them. But they will also somehow be synced to iCloud. So typically, and the same goes with the TPM chip on Windows. Typically, you can't just extract these secrets. So then it's much easier if you get access to a victim's laptop, then you will take authentication cookies or something, because authentication is just the first step. Then you have the session management. So something is sent all the time to the server, if it's a JWT token or a session cookie, and those can be stolen as well. But that's session management, not authentication. Yeah.
What about YubiKeys, for example, for multi-factor?
Yeah, very good. YubiKeys is USB sticks that provide one-time passwords, kind of. The thing with YubiKeys is, though, you have to have several of them for backup, because if you have only one and you lose it, then you're screwed. But depending on where you use it, if you use it for an online account, and the online account have backup codes. So let's say you sign up for GitHub, you add the YubiKey, and then you take the backup codes and you put the backup codes in your password manager maybe, and then you require YubiKey to sign in, or backup codes. Then you can use the backup codes if you lose your YubiKey. But it is a mess. It's not easy. Yeah.
YubiKeys are great, but if you use it on your Microsoft account, they don't allow you to just use them. They always have a fallback.
Exactly. Yeah. Yeah, it's annoying. And unfortunately, that to repeat what you're saying, that if you use YubiKeys with Microsoft account, you can always fall back to SMS codes as an attacker, which sucks. But user experience and security is often not aligned there. So, yeah.
Have you been hacked?
No. Exactly, and I was about to say that. Of course, I would know if no. No, but I have. I testified, I didn't testify, but I'm going to testify in a trial soon, and the first trial has already been. And around that time, I got some hacking attempts, and I suspect it could be the one that is on trial that's trying to get to my accounts. You see when you get password reset emails and stuff like that you haven't yourself initiated. Exactly, yeah. She might be angry. Or Emma. It could be Emma. Okay, thank you very much. I will stick around if someone want to talk afterwards. Thank you.